What's up, guys? It's Sam here, and I wanted to talk about why I like investing in the real estate market. And the main reason is because it is less efficient than, say, comparable markets like the stock market and the bond market, or sort of like mutual funds and index funds, etc. Before I get into this video, make sure you press that subscribe button and that little bell notification so YouTube can tell you every time I post a new video. Okay, so with the real estate market, it's less efficient. So this actually provides a tremendous amount of opportunity for somebody who is more knowledgeable about the market, right? They are both in terms of like the overall market. I put some notes down here. Information about that particular situation is rewarded. Where in the financial markets, you can go to jail, right? It's called insider trading. If I have superior information relative to the market in in equities, say like that stocks, then I can go to jail, right? If there's a theory, it's the mosaic. Like if you were able, and think of like a mosaic, right? A mosaic is built from all these tiny little pieces to represent my hand, or whatever the fuck somebody's creating from a mosaic. It's just all these little pieces that come together, right? So if I can create this information that tells me a certain story based on all these little bits of information that I've garnered from publicly available information, then that is not considered insider trading. But you have to have the data to back that up, right? Like I need to show that I got this from here, this, boom, 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 right? If that were to happen. And if not, you can go to jail. You can be barred from the financial markets in terms of like working in some type of capacity that you had been working in. Excuse me. Where in the real estate market, that's encouraged. You have insider information. Like that's fucking awesome. And you're like, what's insider information? That's just it's an asymmetry of information between two parties, I guess you could say, or the market as a whole. Think of like the MLS, right? An MLS, right, multiple listing service is says something is listed as, say, 1,600 square feet. It's listed as a 2-1, right? So clearly there's something is wrong there, right? But you know, because you've driven by that property, or you know somebody, that the particular agent who listed it just wasn't paying attention, and it was supposed to be a 3-1 and listed as a 2-1. And or they didn't actually look at it, realize that there's a whole nother addition on the back, and that actually brings it to 2,000 square feet. So it's actually a 4-2, but it's listed as a 2-1. You know what I mean? Then that and that would be inside information, so that the market doesn't know that and it's not priced into that. That's what you can think of as like inside information. So that's rewarded in the real estate market. A better understanding of like the best use, or just in terms of the actual asset, right? Because in real estate, there's a bunch of different types of assets, right? So whether that's like an office, or whether that's single family homes, it's a duplex, triplex, it's quads, multifamily, you have industrial stuff. There's just a gamut of different types of real estate, and you can segment it down further if you would like to, by geographic location, right? Because then you could have multifamily in this subset of the broader market, and just having a better understanding of that's rewarded. And I'm going to talk about the rewards of these in a second. Another thing is just like better valuation skills. So that would go into like the best use, right? Like if you have a property that is currently be used as a single family, but you could get much, much higher returns if it was zoned differently, or vice versa, and it was made into industrial or commercial or whatever the case was. or flip-flop that around, or the city laws are changing and you're just aware of these and other people are not, or the permitting or licensing associated with certain things, that provides value that you can use to earn an abnormally high return. Two more things are the tax benefits, are just crazy, and you don't get the same tax benefits for investing in the stock market. There's very low compared to real estate, and then diversification from real estate. So if you look at the holistic view of a portfolio, if you were to take asset classes by segment, right, and you were to get the correlation of each asset class relative to the market, right? Real estate tends to have a much lower than 1 correlation. So you can have correlation up to 1 or down to -1. And what that essentially means is, or 0, I mean like 0 or anything in between, right? Between negative and -1, or 1 and -1. And that represents like 1 moves, it means if 1 goes up by 1, then the other one goes up by 1. Something where it was like -1, when this one goes up by 1, this one goes down by 1, right? So, and then you could have any spectrum in the middle there. So from a diversification standpoint, you can get a benefit from diversification when you have less than 1 for the correlation. Meaning if you have, say, a 0.5 for your correlation, I mean, this goes up by 1, this on average goes up by half of that. You can get a benefit from, and like that's, you have to look at the holistic portfolio to be able to, if you look at modern portfolio theory, you can actually go through and do the math on all this, but I'm sure vast majority of people watching this are not going to be interested in that. But if you are, make sure to let me know down below in the comments and I can put something together. That's rewarded. Another reason that you tend to have lower correlations is because the asset is traded much less frequently. Think of like a stock of Apple might trade intraday, right? Or you could trade it at any time and see what the value is. But with real estate, if you own a single family home, you might trade it every several years or once a year, right? So you don't necessarily have is an efficient in the market from the standpoint of just the asset changing hands, the title changing hands. So all of these things together allow you to earn alpha. And you're like, Sam, what the fuck is alpha, bro? Like, that's not helpful. Alpha is essentially like the active return on a market. So as I mentioned in portfolio theory, if you have essentially like the capital asset pricing model is just the simplest form. You have beta and you have alpha. Beta represents the return in the market. And alpha is the above market return you're able to generate. So if you look at empirical evidence and research, the ability to earn abnormally high returns, alpha, in the stock market or the bond market is virtually non-existent. It's over a long period of time. Meaning you can't really beat the return on the market, right? If you were to use the VTSAX, which is Vanguard's index for, I think it's either the whole US or the world or something like that, as the market benchmark, over time, like you might be able to beat it in 1 year or 2 years, excuse me, over the course of 10 years. There's a very high probability that you won't be able to beat the returns on that in the long run when you factor in the costs associated with it. And then you could also go checking the risk, right? Like you were able to beat it, but your risk was 3 times greater than that. So like if you beat it by 1 percent on average, but your risk was 3 times greater than on a risk adjusted basis, like too much information. Anyways, so alpha would be that 1%, right? If you could beat it by 1%. So all of these things, because the real estate market is so inefficient and rewards all of these things, that's why I fucking love the real estate market. There's just so much opportunity relative to, say, investing in the stock market. And I like the stock market, right? I trade options. And the reason I trade options has to do with some of these things that I just talked about. If you're interested in that, make sure you stay tuned and subscribe. Anyways, those are some of the reasons that I really like real estate, that it just gives you an opportunity to make, like, and you don't even have to know all these things. You usually can just know a couple of these things, and it provides a huge, tremendous benefit. Also, for people who don't necessarily have the tremendous amount of self-control or discipline, getting into something where it's a duplex or triplex or quad is forces people to have some type of discipline when it's associated with their finance, from the standpoint that you have a fucking mortgage to pay, right? So it forces some people to take actions that, like, put them in a good spot. Like, it doesn't require anything special, in my opinion, to be in the 1%, right? You know how the 1% versus the 99% doesn't require anything special. It's just the 1% does things that the 99% are not fucking willing to do, right? Like, you're willing to give up your nights and weekends? Are you willing to put in work every single day for the next 10 years? Are you willing to go constantly pursue knowledge? Are you willing to constantly push yourself to be better every single day for the next fucking 10 years? Or perpetual? I don't know. I mean, if you are, then you're probably on track, and just keep doing that. But, I mean, like, it's not it's not like that complex. You just put in the work every single day, day in and day out, day in and day out, constantly striving to be better at whatever it is that you are trying to achieve. And I mean, if you look at the bottom of the top of the 1%, that's only $400,000 a year. Like, that's not that much. It's not like $20 million. It's not $50 million or $1 billion. It's $400,000 a year. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't take a lot to get to the 1%. There's just so many people who aren't willing to fucking do anything. Like, but other than complain, fucking drink beer and fucking, you know what I mean? Like, take responsibility for your fucking self, and if you want to achieve something in life, put in the goddamn fucking work. Anyways, enough of this ranting. Make sure you subscribe and press that little bell notification so YouTube can tell you every time I post a new video. Boop!